Hi guys, so I'm making this video because I had a conversation in the DM with one of my clients who has fibroids. So she said something to me. She said, oh, she went and she bought some herbs, not from me or from elsewhere, and somebody sold herbs to her and said, oh, these were to be used to treat fibroids. I believe one of the names of the herbs was Ashoka. Okay, so Ashoka is an Ayurvedic herb which they claim can shrink fibroids. So she purchased some of these herbs from another herbalist, and this other herbalist somehow convinced her that those herbs are used to reduce estrogen in the body, and if she reduces estrogen in her body, the fibroids will shrink. So she started taking the herbs and took it for a while. After taking those herbs for a while, what happened? The symptoms she has from fibroids seemed to disappear, or sort of like gets less. She wasn't having the kind of heavy bleeding that she used to have. So she concluded that the herbs were working. And then she tells me, she says one day she ate a particular soup, and then she started bleeding, and she has been bleeding non-stop, and the fibroids have not shrunk. So when she had that emergency, she ran to me and I started asking her questions. The first question I asked her was, who prescribed this? And she told me it was someone that prescribed it, sold it to her, told her that it's supposed to be used to reduce estrogen in the body because that is the cause of her fibroids. Now, I don't know how many times I have to sound this. When they tell you this particular herb works for fibroids, what does that mean? That means that they have used it. One woman somewhere has used it and it worked for her. That does not necessarily mean it will work for you. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about things that influence fibroids to grow, estrogen is just one of several things. As a matter of fact, there can be up to 100 different things that are feeding your fibroids to grow apart from estrogen. So if your fibroids are not fed mainly through the path of estrogen dominance, anything you are going to take that will reduce estrogen is not going to work. That's number two. Number three, there are some herbs that you will take that will only control the symptoms. It will not treat the root cause. And I think this is point number 4. If you want to successfully treat fibroids, you have to do what? Personalize the treatment to the individual. By first of all examining the individual's lifestyle, trying to figure out what pathways are feeding that individual's fibroids, and then target each of those pathways and try to shut them down with herbs. That is the most reliable way to handle fibroids with herbs. If you don't do this, you run into the chance of having clients or patients who you will make a formula for, it works for, and you try it in another person and it doesn't work for that person. Because not all pathways that are feeding a woman's fibroids are the same in every woman. They can vary. So if you manage to develop a formula that targeted a particular woman's the things that are feeding a particular woman's fibroids, don't assume that it will work for everybody. So those are the lessons that should be learned from this. If you want to treat fibroids and they give you something, they say, oh, it works for fibroids, and you even run into problems, go and ask that person why. Questions. Because this particular client was telling me that despite the fact that the lady told her these herbs are supposed to treat fibroids through reducing estrogen, that when she did her research, she saw that the herbs had strong estrogenic properties. You see the contradiction? But there is more to that, but I don't want to go into that. But that's just it. If you want to treat fibroids, you need to find a formula that will work for that woman as an individual. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're wasting that woman's time and her money. And I say this with all sincerity. There have been cases that I have handled that we had to keep looking and looking and looking until we could figure out a formula that worked for that individual. I'm not joking. It took a long time. And this was at the early phase of when I started doing customized or personalized treatments. So handling fibroids with herbs is far more complicated than the way people. So sometimes when I see people, I scrolling on Instagram, I see fibroids here, I'm like, wow, Are you sure it's going to work for everybody? It's not possible that it will work for everybody, but then that's their own business. My own is to tell you people about my own experience, how I have been able to have tremendous success with treating fibroids, because I realized that the best way to handle it is to personalize treatments. So most of my patients, I've never, except for in maybe 2 cases, ever had more than, I've never had one formula that worked for more than 1 person, except in 2 people. I mean, I've never created a formula that worked in more than 1 person, except for 2 women that I used it for. And somehow they matched. But then that was a coincidence. Okay, so I just wanted to again, please, guys, please, I'm begging. If you buy herbs from somebody else other than useful herbs and you run into problems, that person should explain to you why you're having problems. It doesn't have to be me to do that. For the lady that contacted this lady I'm talking about, she's my long-time customer. I couldn't turn her away. But sincerely, I'm inclined to remove myself from situations like that. Because it's not me. I wasn't the one that did it. So getting involved sometimes can put me at risk. So anybody that is prescribing herbs for you, another thing again, find out their qualifications. Because that matters more than anything. It's not just somebody like she was telling me, oh, this person seems like you. This person is all about you being well and making money. That's not all you need. The person has to also be extremely qualified to be able to administer herbs.